Have you tried making your own setups in the past? But every time you look at the setup screen, it makes you go, what the fuck am I looking at? In just under 8 minutes, I will show you exactly what each and every setting does and how it affects the behavior of the car so that you can make your own setups starting today. You ready? Let's go! Aerodynamics. How much downforce do you want in the front and the rear of the car? More wing equals more downforce in the corners. Less wing means more straight line speed. If you're at a track with a lot of straights, like Vegas or Monza, then you better go with very low wings. If you're at a track with a lot of high-speed corners, think about Singapore, Qatar, then you might have to slap on a lot more wings on your car so that you can carry that extra speed through the corners. Once the rear wing is set, now comes the front wing. It determines the balance of the car. Generally, you want to run more front than rear wing. Bigger the gap from the front to the rear is going to create a more oversteery setup. The car is going to be a lot more responsive at the cost of being a little harder to drive. Smaller the gap between the front and the rear, you will have a more stable car. The car is generally going to react a lot less to your inputs. This is sometimes preferred in a race situation where your tires start to die off. Differential. In F1 cars, power from the engine only goes to the rear tires. Therefore, these settings only affect the rear tires of the car. In a normal car, differential allows the outside tire to rotate at a faster speed when compared to the inner tire of the car when going through a certain corner. The outside tire has a lot more distance to cover when compared to the inner tire. This is what we call an open differential. A higher setting means both wheels will be forced to rotate at the same speeds. This setting is going to have a very different effect on the car depending on whether you currently have a foot on the gas or not. Let's take a look, shall we? On-throttle differential refers to the behavior of the car when you are on the throttle, hence the name. With a higher setting, which means the tires are locked to rotate at the same speeds, the same amount of engine power will be transmitted to both wheels, and this allows both wheels to work just as hard to push the car out of the corner. Overdo it, however, and you might lose control of the car as the inner tire suddenly loses grip, then your rear might suddenly snap away from you, which is also what we call snap oversteer. A lower differential is a lot more stable. This, however, means you will have a lot less power to push the car out of the corner. Off-throttle differential refers to the behavior of the differential when you are not on the throttle, when you're off throttle. A lower setting will generally allow the car to rotate a lot more. A higher setting would limit this rotational capability. You want to increase the setting if you are constantly losing the car under braking, or you just find yourself needing more stability in order to be consistent. Engine braking. This setting controls the braking done by the engine, but also the amount of energy that you can recover when you brake. The higher the engine braking, the higher the resistance from the engine itself, the faster you are going to decelerate when you are not on the throttle. However, this does add a lot of instability to your car because the braking from the engine will be done by your rear tires. The faster you decelerate, the more of the weight will move forward, and this applies more weight on the front tires, and this makes the car turn more as you approach the corner. Try to run this setting as high as possible without making the car too undrivable. Suspension geometry. Camera determines how much the tires lean towards the center of the car when viewed from the front of the car. The more it leans, the better the performance through the corners, since the weight will transfer off to one side, and this gives more contact with the asphalt once the car has started to lean. Toe determines the orientation of the tires when viewed from a top-down perspective. Front tires can point out to add more sensitivity to your inputs, which means higher the front toe, the moment you turn the steering wheel, the car is going to want to turn a lot more directly. Rear toe can point more inwards as to offer more stability to the rear. If you overdo it, however, you might find yourself with a car that's asleep. Generally, you want to start with every setting all the way to the left and adjust the toe settings only to your liking. Suspension. You can also think of this as the springs of the car. Stiffer means better performance at high speeds. Softer springs will give you more mechanical grip when you are traveling at low speed. This is when suspension will affect your setup the most. I would recommend going 41 for most tracks for the front suspension, and to go from anywhere between 1 and 6 for the rear suspensions. Anti-roll bar. The name gives it away. With this setting, you control the body roll of the car throughout a corner. The stiffer the roll bar, the less your car is going to want to lean to one side or the other. The front and rear settings will have a drastically different effect on the behavior of the car mid-corner. Let's take a look. Stiffer front will give you more responsiveness when you first just turn into the corner. Okay, why wouldn't I just run the stiffest anti-roll bars everywhere then? Aha, as the weight of the car starts to transfer to one side, the front tires might have trouble gripping up if the anti-roll bars are too stiff. You're gonna find yourself in a situation where the car just simply does not want to turn more. That's when you want to soften up the anti-roll bars so that your car can lean it a little bit more. It is generally preferred for prolonged corners. The rear anti-roll bar behaves slightly different. The stiffer you go, the more the car is going to want to rotate. The softer the anti-roll bar, the better traction you're going to get out of corners. To recap, if you want better performance on turn-in at the cost of performance in long corners, stiffen the front anti-roll bars. If you want better performance mid-corner at the cost of initial responsiveness, soften the front anti-roll bars. If you want more rotation mid-corner, stiffen the rear anti-roll bars. If you want more traction on corner exit, soften the rear anti-roll bars. I know a lot of these settings are quite abstract. If you still got any questions, leave them in the comments below and we'll discuss together. Ride height. This setting determines the clearance of the car versus the asphalt. The higher the setting, the more clearance there is between your car and the asphalt. A lower setting usually means a more agile car, while a higher setting means more traction. If you run the car too low, however, the bottom of your car might start to scrape against the track. This usually has two effects. You either lose control of the car mid-corner and you die, or you lose a lot of straight line speed out of nowhere on straights because you're scraping against the asphalt. Now you have two solutions to this problem. Either you run a higher ride height, or you can make your springs more stiff so that your car does not bottom out. Lower ride height requires stiffer springs. A higher ride height will allow you to run softer springs. So play around with those, see what works best for you. Brakes. You can control the stopping power of the brakes. A higher percentage means you can brake a lot later and harder, but you might lock up your tires if you're not careful. You can also control the brake bias, which is another way of saying, do you want more of your front tire to do the braking or the rear tires? A bigger number means more of the front is doing the work. A lower number means you're offloading more of that to the rear tires. When the braking is more done by the front, your car will be a lot stable, but you might lock up the front if you're trying to turn at the same time. More braking done by the rear usually gives you more rotation, but this also makes things a lot less stable. And finally, tire pressures. Now tire pressures work a little different this year. The higher the pressure, the colder your tires are going to run. And also, since a full and inflated tire offers less rolling resistance, this means the car can reach a slightly higher top speed. Less pressure provides more traction, but it is more prone to overheating. Generally, you want to run max pressure pretty much everywhere, and look at your temperature panel. If one tire is slightly too cold, you can reduce the pressure from that tire. There you have it. In just under 8 minutes, you have become a real setup pro. In the meantime, have fun making your own setups. If you found this video helpful or you do not wish to miss my big next upload, make sure to subscribe. This is Kai signing off. Bye-bye.